one now virtual roundtable series. I am Anthony Ewing, a founder at Thoughttium, and we are on site at Fair in Chicago. This is a special episode with Brittany and Kasia, the co-founders of Fair in Chicago, and we're so excited to be here. We want to welcome all of our communities and as well the Fair community to this roundtable discussion on growing small businesses organically the right way. It's been a great discussion of ours. The small business community has really shown up for not only the Thoughttium team, but the entire Thoughttium community. Brittany and Kasia, co-founders here at Fair, have been such a big part of our community and the experiences that we deliver here at Thoughttium. But today is all about you all and your business and how you've grown it over the course of the last few years. Before we get into it, I want to thank our YouTube community, our LinkedIn community, those folks who are tuning in via Facebook. We welcome you, and we're so thrilled to bring this content to you all on a week-by-week basis. This episode and all episodes can be found at thoughttium.com/live. So without further ado, we have Kasia Bednarz and Brittany DeLeon, co-founders here at Fair. I'm so excited to be on site in one of your newest locations. Welcome to you both. And Brittany, maybe I'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about Fair, and I'd also love to know the story of how you two got together to build this.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We're really excited to be here. So
I'm for you to be here.
For you to be here, for us to be here, for all of us.
For all of us.
Yes. I'm excited for all of us. Yes, like Anthony said, I'm Brittany. This is Kasia, and we met working for the Gibson's Restaurant Group, which is, if you are familiar with Chicago, is a household name here in the city. And we both started, myself as a hostess at Cortino, one of their other restaurants, and Kasia as a cocktail server, and kind of worked our way up within the organization there and found ourselves both in the private dining events department and in a very small office tucked away behind the fish cooler. So it was a cozy place to get to know each other. And, at first weren't quite sure if we would jive. We were sitting pretty close. Well, actually, we sat on...
Brittany didn't like me is what happened, and she put me behind the fish cooler.
Love that.
But eventually, what I think because we were kind of both coming of age, we had just graduated college and had these big girl jobs, at the time, and we're cooking for ourselves for the first time, kind of on our own, out of our homes. And we started bringing very similar looking lunches into the office. And eventually, our seats got a little bit closer together, and we realized that we had some similarities around food and exploring that part of ourselves and kind of coming into our own that way, and started cooking together just for fun. I think it was over a glass of, or maybe a bottle of wine. We came up with, we kind of hatched this plan that we wanted to create a protein bar, an energy bar, something you could eat quickly during the day because we didn't have a lot of time to just sit and enjoy a meal. And that quickly turned into kind of just cooking together for fun and an excuse to get together, and eventually led us to where we are now. There's a lot in between, but I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yes. The origin stories are so interesting to me. You've built a successful business here in Chicago, and it's really off the back of serving the community and providing for the community. But how it all starts is so interesting to me. Just a connection that you both had through a previous employer, and also an opportunity to build something from the ground up. I'm curious, and Kasia, maybe this is a question for you. What is the magic between you and Brittany that allows you to work well together, and it allowed you to really build and scale this concept?
Yeah.
It could be personality traits or even differences that work well together.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question for us because there's such differences and such similarities. And the similarities are what really hold us together. We love the food and we love serving the community, and we're so passionate about it. And our brains work very differently. So Brittany's definitely, we're creatively in terms of the food, we work together, but she's the creative behind how it feels in here and what the brand is and what the customer experience is. Whereas I am very much operations and finance focused. And I'm well, now that we have this great brand, how do we get this brand out there? How do we make it profitable? And how are we able to service everybody? So it works really well. We both work on our strengths and know what our strengths are. And yeah, it's been a great partnership, and we've been best friends for so long, which it's like we're married to each other, and so there's ups and there's downs, but we've learned how to communicate well and just be really open about those. And yeah.
We love to say that in most co-founder relationships, there is an artist and an operator, and it sounds maybe Kasia like you're the operator and Brittany's the artist. Is that Fair to say?
Yeah, I didn't get much of the artist genes, except with the food. But yes.
Yes. Well, both of those come together to make Fair. And I want to talk a little bit about Fair, the business, and Fair, the brand, and Fair, the component of the Chicago community. Let's start with the business. And I'm curious, Brittany, tell us a little bit about the lineage of Fair that has brought you here to this new location on Franklin Street in Chicago. I know that you all grew this over a couple of different formats, not just retail, but also catering and working with the local markets. You started in 2014. Maybe take us through the timeline and the evolution of your business model.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there were a lot of iterations of Fair to get us to where we are sitting today. We started because catering was what we knew in our day job. We thought we'd kind of dabble in that first. So it felt like a low kind of an easy introduction into the world of food. We could test the market by doing these little weekend events, outside of working hours and
sometimes inside of working hours.
Yes.
Sorry, Gibson.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. So we would do, we started doing these food kind of festivals on the weekends, and it was a way for us to see what held up well, over a long period of time, what was easy to create right there on site. And we got some write-ups, some people really interested in what we were doing because it felt very different than what was out there at the time. And from that, took on some catering events in people's homes, and that really took on a life of its own. So once you start doing something like that, I think word of mouth spreads pretty quickly. And before long, we were catering like Shabbat dinners and backyard barbecues, and we did a paella night somewhere. And then all of a sudden, we looked at each other and thought, well, this isn't really what we set out to do. It's fun and it's exciting and there's always something different, but it isn't really what we envisioned Fair to be. And so we refocused and decided that we really needed to look for this space that people could come in and experience Fair in an environment that we created where the food was all our own and we weren't compromising on any of those things. And so that's what we did. And it was a little bit of a chicken and an egg kind of thing. We were looking for funding at the same time we were looking for the ideal space, which at the time we thought was going to be in Fulton Market. It was like sexy and cool there. And of course, that's where we wanted to be.
What year was this?
This was in 2000.
Maybe 2017,
Got
probably.
It. Cool.
Yeah. So it was kind of still very much like an up and coming neighborhood in a lot of ways. But long story short, we couldn't find the space without the money, and we couldn't find the money without the space. And
thankfully,
yes,
at that time.
yes, I know. Yeah, we're always along the way. There have been things that maybe we saw as missteps at the time, or like we really wanted this to happen and it just wasn't happening, that now in hindsight, we're able to look back and say, okay, we're exactly where we were meant to be at that time. And we're here because of those things that maybe we considered, a failure or a misstep or a setback in that moment. So thankfully that didn't work out. We had the opportunity to be in a food hall environment, which we never really considered before. But once we wrapped our head around the idea of working out of 300 square feet, which is very different than working out of 1,800 square feet that we had initially been looking for, we really embraced it, and we're excited about the challenge. There was no black iron there. We had limited space to prep. It's a very produce forward concept, so there's a lot of vegetable prep. And what happened there is we were these newcomers amongst a group of restaurateurs that were seasoned and had a name for themselves, and that really drove people to the food hall, and we quickly became like the favorites there. Our line went from people being curious to snaking around and out the door. So it was a really great experience and place for us to get started. We had great visibility. We were right on the corner of Wells and Wacker, and things just were looking like they were on a really great trajectory heading toward the future. And then COVID happened.
And it was there where we learned that efficiency is so important. And now, thankfully, for that experience at Wells Street Market, it was so small and we had to execute so many people so fast. I mean, we were serving 300-400 people in a matter of 2 hours. And neither of us have any quick service experience. We've always worked in more of a fine dining setting. So it was definitely a learning curve. So our first employees were you tell us how to do this. You worked for Sweetgreen, you worked for Protein Bar, you show us. But we learned so much so fast. And now, like looking back, that space was exactly what we needed, because it's easy to scale up into bigger spaces. But once you learn to work out of something big and have all these like tools and equipment, it's hard to then be like, oh, yikes, now I only have this. Whereas we went the opposite direction. So we became, super profitable, very efficient, very quickly in that. And that's something that we're really proud of.
That's wonderful. So you've got this booming, bustling location on Wells Street. You're seeing the future very clearly, and then COVID hits, right? And like every other small business, we all do a little bit of a pause. We have to take inventory of our value proposition, what matters most, how do we keep the lights on? What were some of your more immediate decisions that you had to make, heading into the pandemic, knowing that this could potentially change your business model forever?
Yeah. So at that time, we also had a location at Timeout Market on Fulton, on Fulton. And then we were building something out in the Loop as well, our first standalone location. So there was a lot of decisions, to be made. Obviously, the Loop was completely dead, so it didn't make sense to do anything there. The food halls closed at that time. So it was like, well, what do you do? Do you do, delivery out of a commissary kitchen? We didn't really have enough of a following yet at that time to make that financially worthwhile. And what made most sense for us was to just reserve the capital that we had and just hang tight, ride it out, and see, where we can go from there. Luckily, we were able to get out of our leases. We waited COVID out. We did transition to a wholesale business for a while and are still doing that with Dom's Market in Lincoln Park. So we did, our food, but we packaged it, delivered it multiple times a day. It was out of a commissary. The hardest business we've ever done.
Yeah,
It's a whole different.
Was that hard? It almost feels these days like so logical and easy, but like what made the wholesale business so hard?
It should be. It should be easy in theory. Like we're like, this is a piece of cake. They order, we make the stuff, we drop it off. Right. It's all good. A lot of it is just the margins. You're selling wholesale. Right. So the margins are lower, so you have to be very, very precise with everything. We found that shelf life was difficult, so you had to order, or you had to deliver often. You couldn't deliver just once or twice a week because our food is super fresh, and that's something we don't compromise on. Like there's no preservatives, there's no weird ingredients in our food, and without those, it's hard to, keep your food stable and delicious a few days, into them being in the refrigerator. So that part was challenging. So we had to increase delivery days and portioning, labeling. There was a lot of certification. So we had to go to the Department of Agriculture and have an inspector on site every day. So it was all really taxing. Yeah. So we kind of pivoted from that. We are still partnering with Dom's Market and still doing that partnership. It works really well. Now we deliver 3 times a week. So you can find us there too. But we kind of stayed away from the other vendors. We finished out the contracts with them. And just now we're slowly partnering with them.
Wonderful. And I want to get to the new location here in a moment, but I almost want to stay in this transition period for you all, over the course of the last 2.5 years. I know myself as a consumer of a lot of local food here, like my consumption behaviors have changed so drastically in the last few years. My needs have changed, how quickly I've got to get food, how little I want to cook at home, even though we've been more close to home than ever. I'm curious, are you all looking at, consumer behaviors and how that's impacting, your business model, or even the way that you would design a new space? And how have those changed? Like what consumer behaviors are driving your decision-making as you build Fare?
I think there's a couple things there. Our new location has a coffee program, and it has more of like an all-day cafe feel. So we recognize that, people want another place to go and work where they can grab a really healthy lunch and they can grab a coffee and, still be able to sit there. There's Wi-Fi, there's seats, it's comfortable. So that's a little bit of it. The timing of when consumers eat has changed, which is bizarre. It's so scattered now, and definitely later in the day. Before it was 11:30 to 1, like you did all your business. Yeah. And now people, they don't really leave the office until like 12:30, and then they're eating later in the day. So, that's definitely different in terms of service style, I would say, and I think just delivery is important. We just recently launched like a proprietary app where we have delivery. You can order ahead of time, and it just makes everything faster. loyalty has become a really big thing. You know, in our restaurant world, people are ordering out more, so they want to be rewarded for that. So we launched a really great loyalty program. So all of that, I think, it came out of the pandemic, and we had the intention of, you know, doing digital ordering and all of that, but I think it just sped everything up, as it did for most restaurant concepts.
I love that. You know, as we get to know more and more small businesses in the Chicago area, particularly those in food, beverage, catering, you no longer can go like one route, right? You have to have a couple of different channels. At the same time, we've also seen small businesses really stretch themselves, because there's this mentality as a business owner now that with the pandemic, we kind of have to do it all. We've got to do virtual, we've got to do in person, we've got to do delivery, we've got to do wholesale. So, Brittany, I'm curious, you know, as you decided to open up this beautiful new location here in the heart of the Loop on Franklin Street, what were the key ingredients that you took from the previous almost 10 years of Fare that you said, this has to have it? And it could be design aesthetics, it could be traffic flow, it could be your menu. What were the key ingredients to building out this beautiful new space?
Yeah, I think like you said, we've had a lot of time to think about what it would feel like to sit in a fair, to not just experience it in a food hall setting or off-site somewhere. And so we knew from the beginning that we didn't want it to ever feel like it was trendy, like it was something that is just in the moment. People are eating healthy now. Like, we really believe that food is headed in this direction. People are educating themselves and want to eat foods that make them feel good. And so we wanted a space that would make you feel good too. Yep. And that could really stand the test of time, that it was, maybe this has been here for 10 years and it could easily be here for another 10, 15 years, and that you wouldn't feel like you were walking into some time capsule in a sense. So we wanted it to feel elevated, like that you could experience a little bit of luxury in your day, even if you're just taking a break to grab a coffee or your lunch from, you know, you're on your 30 minutes away from your desk. So that's, I think, a lot of the touches of the material or the materiality. I think that's the word.
It is today.
And how, and how things felt, that it was just like luxurious in a sense, but also welcoming, not cold or unattainable, but just very like comfortable. And so in addition to the food that we serve here, we have some beautiful retail shelves, which you can't really see right now, but all of those things have been very carefully curated, and they're products that we actually love and like use in our homes. And so for us, this is just such a personal space. Like many people have come in and said, I feel like I'm at your house. This feels like when I come over. And it's intentional, but also, you know, we didn't even have to think about it that much in the same respect. So all of these things are products that we stand behind and use in our everyday life, and have been years of learning, like, oh, I like these beans over these beans, or this hand soap doesn't have certain chemicals that maybe others do. You know, this is a book that I cook from often and I find inspiration in. So these things are deeply personal to Kasia and I, you know, even as we grow and expand, we want there to always be a touch of that at Fare, because, you know, at the end of the day, like, you can get food anywhere, but we want you to be able to feel a certain way when you're here too.
You absolutely feel a certain way. I can say, just from the lighting to the texture of the materials to the fact that we're looking at kind of their off-the-shelf retail space, like, it is highly curated, and you can tell it's also very personal. I'm curious, how do you support this space and, you know, your entire Fare business with your brand? Because the way that I've experienced your brand is that it is also very personal. You all are telling the story as you build this business, and that doesn't just exist within these walls. It has to do with, you know, trips to the farmers market, and even bringing like aspects of your family into, you know, the building of the business. Like, tell us about the story you're building on Fare and the story that you're creating to support the business, if you will.
Yeah, you know, I think that it feels very natural to us in a way, because that is just our life right now. You know, there's
you're in it.
We're very much in the thick of it, but that's exactly where we wanted to be. And it requires more than just Kasia and I. You know, there's a lot of people involved in us getting to this point and where we are now, and that includes our friends and our family, and people have been there along the way, and my kids dragging them along to the farmers market and that sort of thing. You know, so yes, we want to share personal bits of our story because this brand has meant so much to us, and we've been building it for a long time, and we don't even know how to detach from it in that way. So we're in it, we're learning as we go, and we enjoy sharing those bits of things along the way. We look for inspiration for people who have, taken things a step further and hope to inspire as well.
Yeah. And it allows people to know what they're getting even before coming here, right? So of all of the consuming I do of your social media and Instagram, there's two things that stick out. It's your weekend trips to the farmers market. And when you were building this space, there was a lot of focus on like very interesting materials, from like the bowls that you serve your food in to what you're putting on the shelves, that I knew what I was getting before I even walked in here, which is, I think, an incredible part of the brand and also telling the story. Kasia, go ahead, please.
On that, I think transparency is really important to us. Just like that's a pillar of our brand that is very strong, and we both feel very strongly about it. So we want you to, feel like exactly what you're getting, like what's in your food. You know that we're not going to put extra weird additives in anything. Like, this is our brand. Like, this brand came out of a place where like we didn't feel like there was anything like it that we could trust, a place that we could go and feel great about the food and like really believe like what they were serving us. And a part of that on, social media and just in our daily lifestyles is sharing that like this is what you're getting. Like, you're getting what we want to eat, and this is our lifestyle.
So. Is there a part of this business that tell us a little bit about the future of Fair? And my question more so is like, is there a part of what you've created that makes you want to stay small and organic and local? Or do you have this idea of just taking this totally to the moon? Like, what are some of your thoughts in terms of, expansion, growth, et cetera? And how do you keep that warm, family-oriented feeling to this amazing business that you've already built?
We're going to the moon.
I love it.
We're going to the moon, but that's because all the neighborhoods need a fair. And
love it.
Yeah, because we're so proud of this brand, we think it could work anywhere. We want it to be accessible. We want this type of food to be accessible. And I think how getting it out there is what's going to be important, is just really building a culture in our team and making them buy into what we're doing. We give them a meal. We really treat them as though they're our family, like we all work together in the business, and we want them to understand, like, why is this carrot better than this carrot? Why are we serving these things? Like, why is the music what it is? And that way they really it's embedded in them. Like, the fair culture is embedded in them. And I think that will help translate. It's a good team is what you need in order to grow. And that's something that we are very adamant about fostering.
Love that. So much to learn here about Fair in Chicago. Again, give us a specific address.
It's 71 South Franklin.
Yes, right next to the Willis Tower, right in the heart of the Loop. If you have an opportunity to stop by and grab lunch, absolutely do so. Why don't we close with a little bit of a lightning round if you all are up for it? Of course, you haven't been prepped, but if you trust me, we want to get to know Kasia and Brittany a little bit more, the individuals, right? So we've talked about you all as business owners. First and foremost, and you're both welcome to answer this question. Kasia, we'll start with you. What are you reading, listening to, binging today?
Probably something that relates to restaurants.
Okay, love it.
Yeah, I love to cook. I mean, we both really love to cook at home, so a lot of it is just learning new techniques. So like really great cookbooks, food magazines I'm very into. I can't say that at this moment there's all this leisurely time to be binging on that. But yeah, I would say like if I'm home, if I have time, I'm reading cookbooks and really trying to better that part and those skills.
Brittany, please tell me it's like Game of Thrones or like something.
Yeah, you know what I just discovered is the show Alone. Have you heard?
No.
It's like they drop people in the wilderness, and it's like real. It's not Survivor style. It's like real wilderness. So I mean, this is new. I just learned about it a week ago. So I've watched 3 episodes. If that's binging, and I'm really into it.
That's a lot of things.
Yes, we're not big. Yeah. But I've been spending more time in the car than I typically do, and I do love a podcast. So some of my favorites are Brene Brown. I love listening to her. Dr. Becky Kennedy from Good Inside. She's like a parenting expert, and I'm just like trying to soak it all up right now. So those are probably my two like go-to that I listen to, and then Goop, because I just love Gwyneth Paltrow, and I kind of, she's very aspirational in a lot of ways for me. So I kind of tend to like jump on board with whatever she's selling me, and so I like to listen to her stuff once in a while. Yeah.
Is it crazy that I'm so far from having children, but somehow, some way, I follow Dr. Becky on Instagram?
I think she's great for adults too.
1000%.
This is a Dr. Becky plug.
Yeah.
And she's doing a live in-person event, and I think I might buy tickets to it.
She's absolutely incredible. And it's not just for children.
No, not just for children.
Managing your adult children as well too.
Yeah, no.
She's incredible.
She's incredible.
Okay, you all had a unique role that you played in our Create the Space dinners. This was a unique event that we put on 4 times a year to really bring a unique experience to our clients and our community. And FAIR has been a big part of that. What are some of maybe what's one of the coolest like events or one-off gestures that you've made in the community that like has really made an impact? Because we know that the food and the food experience that you've brought to our Create the Space dinners has almost made the experience. I mean, we would have never thought that the food alone that's put on the table can open such great conversation and can almost invite such organic, warm connection amongst people. What's another example of like an event or some sort of activation out in the community that like really surprised you in terms of the impact that it had?
It's a hard one. It's a hard one. Well, thank you.
Just our dinner. That's fine with
Create
me.
the Space. Oh, geez.
Yeah. What's an activation? I mean, we've done a lot of things. We do less events now, so we're pretty specific about the things that we do. But I think what's most rewarding about these events is that you get to know the people, and like you said, you're not just a caterer where you're bringing food and dropping food off, but like people really feel that we love the food. Like they know that there's heart put into it. And recently we did an event for a woman who used to come into the Wall Street Market Fair and her family, and we felt like we were like in the event and with them, and our brothers helped work the event. So that was really awesome. Fun. And just the feedback and the smiles on the faces. And it was really good.
Okay. So if you both could pull one attribute from your co-founder and almost immediately install it in yourself, what would that attribute be?
Oh my gosh, these are good questions.
I have a lot, Brittany.
You do? Oh, gee. I'm like, huh. Kasia also has so many like wonderful traits, but she's just very driven in like this way that's intense, and you can feel the intensity in a good way.
That.
Yeah.
I love that. I so can relate.
No, it is. It's contagious, and you want to do better around that, and you want to like soak some of that up. And so from the point that we started FAIR, like she's had a vision, and that hasn't wavered, and that really keeps us on track. And I think that I can be very emotionally driven at times, and I always come back to Kasia's like sturdiness in that way to kind of be like the guiding light forward. So I think a little bit more of that, just like grit and like knowing like this is where I'm going. And I'm not giving up on that. I would love to have of hers.
It's Kasia. I can tell Kasia has that like to the moon energy that is like so vital.
Yeah.
But yes, it can be felt in every room. And I say this because I'm the to the moon to our co-founder Norm, who's a little bit more of like the operator, if you will. And you need both in each business. So Kasia, how about Brittany? What would you install in yourself?
I think, and this is not to say I don't have integrity, but I think Brittany has this like really strong integrity. And when she has a value, like that is a value that is not going anywhere. And she will like go to death with this value. And I think sometimes as a business owner, like you waver on things because you have to make ends meet, or, there's yeah, you make concessions in a lot of ways. And there are things like Brittany holds us really accountable to. And like, you need that in a brand, you know,
Yep.
like decisions we've made. She's like, no, this is who we are. And so I'm always like, oh, I gotta run it by Brittany. But but I love that. Like, we need that. And I know that, yeah, our brand will be what it is because Brittany is keeping that part of us together for sure.
Super special. Okay, last question for you both. And it can be a different answer. Think about what you admire most about what you've built here at Fair and complete this sentence. If the world were a lot more like Fair, it would be what?
Inspired.
Love that.
I think it would be inspired.
Cool.
I think we inspire a lot of our customers to be able to cook for themselves at home and to live a better, healthier, like more fruitful life. So I would say that to me.
Love that.
That's a good one.
Brittany, how about you?
The world, can you say it again? If the world
If
were
the
more,
world were a lot more like Fair, it would be what?
it would be, well, a lot healthier. That's
I
for
love
sure.
that.
Better skin.
Yeah. Just
Yes.
feel better in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I can't think of one word,
Healthier is
but
great.
I think healthier, or like, what's the word for like just more connection?
Sure.
You know, and I
Connected.
think that's really important about who we are. Like, we want to feel connected to the food we're eating. It's not just a meal. Like, we have, it's so important for us to feel connected to our food if we want to create sustainable practices and food moving forward. So, yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you both so much for spending 30 minutes here in the afternoon. We're at the new location of Fair on Franklin Street. Definitely stop by and check it out. Also follow Fair on Instagram. They're a really good follow. Dr. Becky as well, too, apparently.
Yes. Yeah.
But Brittany, Kasia, thank you so much. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being a part of the Navigating Now community, and also for the incredible work that you do for the community at large and for the Thought Team community. We really appreciate you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for including us.
This wraps up episode 103. We love to be on site, so we're looking forward to more on-site episodes over the course of the next few weeks and months. We go live every Thursday at 3 o'clock Central. You can find this episode and every episode at thoughtteam.com/live. Have a good rest of the day, everybody, and we'll see you next week.